Hey guys, today on JD Cars, we'll be installing a new M3 style rear bumper on my BMW F30. So as you guys can see, I already have the M3 style front bumper installed in the car. I'm super stoked with how it turned out. I think it looks fantastic. Paint job from Hardy's Auto Body came out beautiful. Perfect paint matte with the rest of the car. Gives the car a much more aggressive look. So today we'll be taking care of the rear bumper. We'll be converting it from this stock baseline style bumper to a much wider and much more aggressive looking M3 style rear bumper. So I have the new M3 style bumper in the garage here. In case you guys haven't seen my previous videos, I'm doing a full M3 style kit on this car. So that includes the front bumper that I put on, this new rear bumper, side skirts, and front fenders. So definitely be sure to check out my previous videos and be sure to subscribe to see the rest of this build because it's going to be really exciting. So I'm going to pull the F30 into the garage here, put it up on the lift. As I tell you guys every time, you by no means need a lift to complete this job, but it is definitely helpful to have one. That being said, you can absolutely get away with doing this with a floor jack and limited hand tools. Also, to give you a quick look of what else comes with the bumper, if your car is equipped with park distance sensors, you're going to get some new park distance sensor brackets here and some adhesive to apply them. You'll also get some new reflectors for the new bumper, and it looks like we also have some sort of extension maybe for our fender liners. And then lastly, we also have this plastic bracket which will hold the electrical for your park distance sensors, as well as the kick to open trunk feature if your car is equipped. So let's pull that thing into the garage here and we'll get it up on the lift. So the first thing I'd like to do is taking care of getting our tail lights out of the way, and I'll show you more later why we're going to be removing the tail light. Basically, it helps with the removal process of the bumper. So we'll pop the trunk here, and using a flathead, you can remove this little grommet here at the top of this plastic piece here. Now we can remove this plastic rain guard. Simply pull it out, and we can now use a 10mm socket to remove these two nuts on the back of the tail light. This will allow you to grab hold of your taillight and just pull it out like so. There is a clip up in this corner of the taillight, and it is a little tricky to release sometimes. Just be gentle and don't snap it. As you can see here, it's not even really a clip, it's kind of like this little ball joint. So just pull straight back and it should release just fine. Then remove your taillight wiring from this little clamp right here, and then you can press down on the connector clip to disconnect taillight from the car. I'll now be using a T30 Torx bit to remove one screw just inside the bumper here. I highly recommend picking up one of these right angle adapters so you can get your impact in here. It makes your life a lot easier in a lot of situations. I'll have a link to one of these in the description below. Try to show you here that screw located right there inside the bumper. You'll now want to switch over to an 8mm socket. We'll be removing these two 8mm screws inside the fender liner here, and a series of 8mm screws underneath the bumper that go all the way across to the other side. These three screws in the middle of the bumper here are 10mm. You can now grab our 10mm socket once again and remove the two final 10mm screws, one located here on each side. Now apply some masking tape to the side of the car here. It's going to prevent this paint from getting scratched during the removal of the bumper. Now starting at this corner of the bumper, you can start popping it off like so. And that's why we put this tape here, just in case any of these clips were to make contact, they're not going to scratch the paint. Now the reason for removing our taillight here is to allow us better access to these two clips on the inside of the bumper. It's really difficult to access them without removing the taillight, and you can sometimes just force it and pull it out, but this is definitely the safer way to go. So we're going to press and release these clips like so. And now I'll repeat the same process over on the driver's side. After releasing both sides, we can now grab the bumper and remove it from the car. And if you have park distance sensors like me, you'll want to disconnect those at this time. So we've got our old bumper here, and we need to remove our park distance sensors to transfer them over to the new bumper. But before doing so, I'm going to label them just in case the position matters to the car. Now to remove these sensors, we're simply going to pry out on these two clips and then pull the sensor out. We'll now be using these included park distance sensor brackets and adhesive pads to affix our park distance sensors to the new bumper. So we're gonna grab a bracket and one of the adhesive pads and pull off one side of the backing. Then I recommend applying a little bit of heat with a heat gun, and then line it up on the bracket and firmly press down all the way around. So to install our sensors, simply going to take the sensor, pop it into the bracket here, make sure these two tabs click into place, peel off the adhesive backing here. Now I like to dump some heat into the plastic as well as the adhesive. Then we'll line this up with the hole and firmly press it into place for about 30 seconds. We now need to get the car ready to install this new plate for our electronics. So to do so, we're going to come under here, and first we're going to disconnect the kick to open module here. I'm just going to press down on the tab and disconnect it. And now I'm going to release all these wires from these clips. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to pull the clip down and remove the wire. And then to remove the plate itself, we have a series of clips here. I'm going to use a flathead to release those. We'll also need to use a pry tool to remove these grommets along this band right here. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but from these wires here, it appears to be electrified and probably some sort of sensor. But anyways, we will need to transfer it over. Now you may or may not have this module here with 3 connectors. So first things first, we want to disconnect the 3 connectors. And then to release the module, we're going to pull out on this tab here and then pull the module out of the bracket. Then we need to unwind these wires and remove them from the plate. So looking at the old bracket versus the new bracket here, we do have some things to figure out. As you can see, this strip lines up right here, and that won't really be a problem. And this wire mounts up down here, also not a problem. We are going to have to tuck the ends in. This sensor here pops right into place, like so. But as you can see, they completely chopped off the mount for this module here. So I've looked at the back, and there is no really place that it's supposed to mount in because the mount was chopped off. So I think I'm going to trim the ends down off this module and use some 3M extreme mounting tape, and I'll probably mount it up right in this corner here. There is a decent amount of slack in all of these wires, so it shouldn't really matter where I place this. Of course, we can't place it up here because this is going to be flush against the rear crash bar. Alright, so we have our 2 modules on the plate here. We have the kick sensor and then the other module adhesive mounted on here. So now I'm going to pop this onto the car. We're going to install this wire and whatever this is. You will be needing some new grommets. I'll have a link to a set of grommets and grommet removal tools in the description below. Alright, got everything mounted up here. I did use a little bit of that 3M extreme mounting tape to secure the ends of this flat wire here. Tuck this end of the wire up in here just to avoid any issues with the exhaust. Now we'll reconnect our 3 connectors to the module located right here, and then I'll neaten everything up with some zip ties. So here's a shot of everything neatened up. Take you underneath. So as you can see, I got my connections plugged back into this module. I ran my wire for the kick sensor and plugged that back in, and then neatened everything up with the zip tie. So that all worked out really well. So at this point, the new rear bumper is all set to be installed on the car, except the car is not ready for the bumper. I'll explain that here. So take a look at the stock exhaust holes on the stock bumper here, and then take a look at the exhaust ports on the new bumper. As you can see, looking at it from above, stock holes are quite a bit wider than the new holes, so we will have to be modifying the exhaust on the car. So I'll show you what I picked up to accomplish this. I don't know if you can see it through the packaging, but I got myself 2.5 inch 90-degree elbows. I got myself some 2.5 inch pipe, and what I'm really excited to see is this pair of dual carbon fiber exhaust tips. Let's grab one, take a look at it. Oh wow, these look sweet. Oh man, check these out. These are really gonna add to that aggressive rear end look. So this is a 2.5 inch inlet to dual 3.5 inch outlet exhaust tip setup. As you can see, it is staggered, so I'll put the longer one on the inside, shorter one on the outside. But man, these are gonna look sweet. So to give you a very basic understanding of the setup here, we're gonna chop off the stock muffler tips, and we're gonna take this 90-degree elbow and then a section of straight pipe. That will go to our new muffler tip setup. like so. So I just took my first measurements of the exhaust here from that exhaust tip to this exhaust tip on center. I used this little post. As you can see, it's offset and the right side appears to be just about dead on center in that pipe. So I measured from each of those posts, and that measured out to be 32 3/4 of an inch. And to measure the spacing of these tips, put a little bit of this soft packaging material over the tips as to not scratch up the bumper. And then I just put the bumper down on top of them, and to get them square, I took a board, ran it across, and it's sitting on either edge of the bumper, and I pushed it up against the tips here to square them up, and then measured from the center of each of these tips to one another, and that measured out to be 26 5/8 of an inch. So I just quickly taped up my 90-degree angle to my straight pipe here just to check the fitment, obviously. And here's what I'm planning on doing. I'm planning on putting this in, planning on chopping off the stock pipe here, and then using this more compact setup here. And as you can see, the new M bumper should accommodate this setup, but I'm not entirely sure yet. So the plan now is to cut off our stock tips, as sad and scary that is to do. I'm gonna be cutting it off right here. I'm gonna try to make as flush a cut as possible. And on this side here, you can see I do have the BMW electric exhaust valve mounted up there on the exhaust. It does look as though I could just cut that out and weld it into our new straight pipe to salvage that and keep that stock functionality. So I will be trying to cut that out and transplant it into our new straight pipe here. See if the diameter is the same, and if it is, we'll try to make that happen. Alright, so as you can see on the left side here, I first used my reciprocating saw. I was able to make a really clean cut, as you can see. My reciprocating saw wasn't able to get completely flush in here, and after doing some brief measurements, I think it is going to be necessary to cut this remaining weld and pipe off. So I'm going to use my angle grinder and a cutting disc to do that. Hopefully I have enough room to get in there with that. Alrighty, I chopped off that weld. It was a little bit difficult to get in there with my angle grinder, but I got it chopped off, made a pretty clean cut, and I used my grinding disc to grind down the edges. Touch that up a bit more later, but right now I'm going to lower the car down, and now we can finally start installing the rear M bumper. So carefully bring our new bumper over here. Keep in mind I do have a moving blanket on the ground to protect this from getting scratched. And before we can get the bumper on, it's a good idea to connect our parking sensor connectors, as that will be difficult later. So starting with this one here, we're gonna connect our wire to the parking sensor we installed on the bumper, and do that with the remaining 3 across the bumper here. Once we have all the parking sensors connected, we can now start fitting the bumper to the car. Starting with these 2 clips here, which we removed the taillight in order to access. So we're going to lift the bumper up and firmly press these clips into place. Now the bumper should be supporting itself. And at this time I also am going to reinstall the 2 10mm screws that go on either side. And I'm not going to torque them down quite just yet. I'm just going to hand thread them in here to better secure the bumper while we're working on getting it installed. Now peel off this masking tape. Carefully maneuver the top lip of the bumper here. And we're slowly going to press it into place. We'll now reinstall the 1 T20 torque screw. You can now install this front 8mm screw, but hold off on these 2 other ones here. Now the reason you don't want to install these 2 rear 8mm screws yet is because we have to install these new little plastic guards. We have one for the driver's side and one for the passenger side. They are different sizes. The larger one is going to be used for the driver's side, and the smaller one is for the passenger side here. So we're going to pop out little pre-cut holes. It is a nice black painted panel, so that's a plus. Now coming underneath the car here, you'll notice this new plate has 3 holes in it, and there are only 2 fastener holes for our 8mm. So what we're going to have to do is screw this into place with the 2 screw holes we do have, and then come back to this rear one, mark the hole, remove the plate, and install a new clip in that location for a corresponding 8mm screw. And this is what it should look like when installed. Next we have to reinstall our 3 10mm screws in the center of the bumper here, but you'll notice there's only 1 hole in the center of this diffuser here. So that's where these 2 little tabs come into place. As you can see here, this tab folds back and lines up with the hole right here. We'll need to use one of these little threaded clips. Simply install it on that white plastic over the hole. Then we'll have something to screw into with our 10mm screw. Here's what it should look like when you're all done. Now we need to reinstall the two 8mm screws inside the fender liner here, 2 on each side. And we can now torque down this 10mm screw on the top of the bumper here. And it's now time to reinstall our taillights. So easy enough, we're gonna grab our taillight connector, plug it into the taillight, make sure that it snaps into place. And then we're gonna line up this ball joint with this receptacle here, as I was talking about during the removal process. Firmly press the taillight into place here, and we'll now reinstall our two 10mm nuts. And don't forget to reinstall this weather guard and the plastic rivet that secures it up top. And lastly, we'll install these reflectors. Simply pop into place like so. And at this point, the rear bumper is now installed, but we still need to fab up those custom exhaust tips, so that's gonna be a project in itself. So now I'm gonna go over the exhaust setup here. These tips have a length of about 9.5 inches, and the distance from this hole of the elbow to this end is about 1.25 inches. So I determined that I needed about a 4.25 inch piece of pipe to connect my elbow to my tips. So I determined that I needed 4.25 inch piece of straight pipe to connect my elbow to my exhaust tip. So I cut out a 4.25 inch pipe, and you'll notice that the other one is actually shorter. I'll explain that. I removed the factory exhaust valve system from the mount here. I just had to remove 3 10mm screws, and that allowed me to cut out this factory valve, and it actually worked out really nicely. As you can see, the diameter is almost identical. The valve is slightly larger, which will make for really easy welding of it. And I'm gonna weld that in line with my exhaust tip, which is why I cut this piece of pipe 1.25 inches less, because I measured out my exhaust valve to be 1.25 inches in length here. So I'm gonna get going on welding up my elbows to my straight pipes, as well as welding in my exhaust valve.
Pools opening. These are some of the things we expect with summer.
So the two welds I had to make for the valve side are right here, attaching the OEM valve system here. Got it all bolted up and it fits great. I'm really stoked to have that back on there. After doing a slight test fit on the car, I noticed that the tips are angled a little bit improperly. They're angled inwards a little bit. So I used some masking tape on my elbow here just to make an even line all the way around. And I'm gonna trim off just a bit of this elbow. I'm gonna do the same to this elbow as well, and that should resolve my fitment issues. So I trimmed down my exhaust setup here, and I have it supported by 2 of these huge jack stands. I have the 2 tips supported here, as well as the front of the pipe where it connects to the muffler. And I just wedged a little bit of paper in there to get my fitment and angle properly set up. I'm happy with the fitment, it looks good. So now it's time to go grab the welder and tack this into place. All right, pulled the tip off there, and I have my pipe and elbow tacked up to the muffler here. Now I have to repeat the same process over on the other side. All right, both sides are welded up, and as you can see, I reinstalled the tips because I am gonna tack them in place and weld them up as I am with the rest of the exhaust, because I don't really trust these exhaust clamps to hold the tips in place. So might as well weld them up and make it permanent. Now that I have everything tacked up here, it's time to remove the entire exhaust system from the car so that we can lower it and fully access all the way around the pipe to weld it up properly. First, we'll need to use a T55 Torx bit to remove these 6 fasteners to remove the support bracket in the center of the car. Next, we'll need to use a 16mm to remove this downpipe exhaust clamp at the front of the car. Now I'll need to get 2 jack stands in place for when we lower the car here to support the muffler before removing the exhaust hanger bolts. Now I'll need to use a 13mm socket to remove the exhaust hanger bracket bolt located right here. There's also another one on the other side in the identical location We'll need to remove both of these and then lower our exhaust onto the two jack stands. I'll now use an E10 female torque socket to remove the two bolts securing this exhaust hanger towards the front of the car here. This is the last attachment point of the exhaust. Once we remove these two bolts, this front pipe will begin to lower down, and our muffler will be supported by those two jack stands. I put a third jack stand under the mid pipe here just to help better support the exhaust. And there's the exhaust system. So I'm just gonna carefully lower it down from the jack stands and get my car out of here so I have a bit more room to work on this. Alright guys, I have the exhaust fully welded up here. It's entirely ready to go and put on the car. I even reinstalled the factory valve system, so that's ready to go. So I'm super stoked to still have that functionality. So without further ado, I'm gonna get this exhaust out of the way, get the F30 in here, and get the exhaust reinstalled. Well guys, it's getting dark and it's starting to rain, so I gotta wrap up this video, but I do want to say I am super happy with how this rear bumper and exhaust system came out. The M bumper just makes the rear end look so much more aggressive. I love the air vents on the sides, the diffuser in the middle, and just the aggressive styling overall. And this quad carbon fiber exhaust also adds some aggressiveness in itself. I'm really happy with how it came out. Lined up perfectly. Obviously really not much of a difference in sound. I mean, maybe a tiny bit, but we'll get this thing loud with a cutout another day. In case you guys didn't catch it earlier, I did get staggered exhaust tips. I really like the look of how the inner one pokes out farther than the outer one. And of course, being a carbon fiber nut, I love these carbon fiber accents. I honestly ended up loving this exhaust just as much as the bumper. But yeah, not much else to say other than it came out looking really good. The kick to open feature still works. So I'm really hyped about that. My parking sensor still worked perfectly, so I really couldn't be happier with how this came out. Not to spoil the surprise too much, but I do have the M3 style side skirts and front fenders installed. Not gonna show you those. Gotta go watch the video on that to see those. But definitely check out my front bumper video and these coming side skirt and front fender videos. Sorry if my face is a little puffy, I just got my wisdom teeth out. But again, I'd like to pay a huge thank you to Bryan from KiesMotorsports for making this video possible. KiesMotorsports is an extremely informative BMW YouTube channel and a BMW parts website. I'll have links to both Bryan's YouTube channel and website down below. I highly recommend you check out their website for any parts you may need, and chances are either Bryan or I have a video showing you how to install the parts listed on the website. Also, I want to make a quick giveaway announcement. I just dropped these sweet new limited edition JD Cars 4th of July edition t-shirts. As you can see, I had the JD Cars logo made up in a 4th of July American flag theme. It looks really sweet. I can't wait to be rocking this on the 4th. Also, these t-shirts are super soft. They're next level performance t-shirts with the tearaway tag, so they're super comfy, super soft, and they fit great. We also just released a version of this shirt with the same American flag logo on the front, except in the back it has a modded in America graphic on it. Pretty sweet. Definitely go check it out on the website. So I'll be giving away these t-shirts in a size of your choice, or you can opt for a $20 JD Cars store gift card. The choice is entirely up to you. All you have to do is subscribe, follow the JD Cars Instagram at jd.cars. Third, leave a comment down below what you'll be doing to celebrate the 4th. And if you win the contest, I'll be contacting you via Instagram direct messages, so be sure to be following the JD Cars Instagram at jd.cars. So that's gonna wrap up this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like below. It really really helps me out with these longer, more in-depth builds. This was certainly a project that took me all weekend. Use discount code 10% off 2019 at jd-cars.com for your JD Cars merch. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on this exciting build, and I'll see you guys next time on JD Cars.